Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth, and if you are new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. So tonight I am making a large pot of chili, and this is just for some friends of ours at church, but I wanted to go ahead and just show me making it because I don't have a recipe per se, but I'm gonna go ahead and try to write some form of a recipe down for you, and this maybe will at least give you an idea to show you kind of what I do. So this is to feed several people, so it is a large batch. This is not what I would typically do for my family of 4, obviously, but you can always scale it down. So let's get into it and I'll show you what I made.
So as per the usual, I am doing a voiceover because my house was just a little loud at the time that I was making dinner, which is pretty normal, especially when you have a family. So anyway, I just went ahead and added about 5 pounds of ground beef to my 7-quart Dutch oven. And I'm going to take time here to go ahead and chop up the vegetables that I am putting into the chili. So I went ahead and I cut up 2 bell peppers. I just picked green because I had some. You can do any color bell peppers. And then I'm going to chop up an onion and some tomatoes. So chili is one of those things that my family, I grew up eating chili for dinner somewhat regularly. And I was never really a big fan of chili, but of course I have 2 children who love chili. So it's a family favorite in my house. And it is, I don't know, it's like, I know I've talked about this, but so we live in Indiana and it is just, you'll have a couple days of just beautiful 70-degree days. And then today it was literally, I think, 38 degrees or something. And it was like I don't know, by the time I'm even driving this to the church to, serve to everybody or, to go help or whatever, it was like snowing, basically, like sleet, snowing, I don't know. And those days just call for chili. I mean, it's like you have to do it. You just have to make it those days. So anyway, we just like chili a lot. So I go ahead and you can cook these separately if you want, but I just go ahead and I add in my peppers and onions to my beef while it's cooking. And they'll just get soft at the same time, especially when it's a lot like this. There's not really risk of the peppers and onions burning. So I just threw them all in now. And I had this red onion in my refrigerator. There was already part of it cut off. We had used it when we made pork tenderloin sandwiches to put on top of those. But I just went ahead and used the other part of this onion to put in the chili. I would typically use a yellow or white onion for the chili, but like I said, I just try to use what I have. I fly by the seat of my pants. That's how I live my life. That's how I cook my food. And that's what I was doing here, was just using whatever I had. And I decided I didn't need it all. Some of my family is a little bit sensitive to onion and garlic. And so I really try not to overload it sometimes with those 2 flavors because I know it can really upset somebody's stomach. And so I don't want to do that. So I used, I don't know, a good portion of it, but I did go ahead and save a little bit of it out. And I just put that in the refrigerator and we'd have some pre-chopped onion. So I would typically probably use a can of diced tomatoes in this because I always have diced tomatoes in a can. But I had fresh tomatoes that were, they're just getting close to needing to be used. And I really didn't have a lot of other plans for anything with tomatoes. And so I decided to just cut up a few fresh tomatoes and put those in. And so I did that. I just cut up 2 and I end up throwing those in later. But I try to just get everything chopped while I'm in the process of chopping things up. I try to get everything done. I knew I didn't need the tomatoes yet, but I would soon. And so now those are just ready to go for me. So here I'm just breaking up the beef and I'm getting everything mixed in. And I'm going to let this cook here for just, I don't know, a few minutes until everything starts to brown. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and I took 4 cans of black beans. Again, I make chili with whatever beans I have. I've used chili beans, kidney beans, black beans, and it is all up to your preference. I just happen to always have black beans because Sam's Club sells a larger box with cans of black beans in them. So I just generally use black beans, but I go ahead and drain them. Again, this is up to your preference. I know that some people like leaving their beans undrained and adding that liquid. That liquid does have good flavor in it, but I don't like the color and the consistency it gives my chili, so I do drain them. But here I'm adding in salsa. So this might be kind of an odd ingredient. I don't know. I think that it just adds a nice underlying flavor. It doesn't taste like salsa. You're not going to know it's in there unless you see that it's in there. But I just used whatever the rest that was in that big container that we had, and I even added some water and tried to get all of that out of there. So I just, like I said, it just adds a little bit of something that I've made it with salsa and without, but I just like the flavor that the salsa gives to it. So I add a little bit of that. I went ahead and added in my chopped tomatoes, and here's where I'm going to go ahead and add my seasonings. So I'm going to add garlic powder. Again, I don't add a ton. You can add more. I'm going to put some sort of a recipe in the description. That was cumin. Here is Italian seasoning. Most chili will call for oregano. I just don't ever have just plain oregano, so I just always add a little bit of Italian seasoning, and then chili powder. So that's what I add the most of is chili powder. It's chili, so I mean, it's got to have a lot of chili powder, right? And then salt and pepper. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did drain my beef mixture before I added all this stuff. I drained it of all the grease or at least most of it. So that's not in there anymore. But anyway, so once I got the spices in, I'm going to give it a mix, and I'm going to let those all start to, get mixed in, and everything's looking good. And I always do this based on color. I don't know. It's like I just know what color I'm looking for my chili, but I'm going to go ahead and add my beans in here. And then I'm going to add, and I've made this so many times. Like I said, it's really hard because it's like I do just wing it, but I have made this so many times that it's like I pretty much have a really good handle on what I want, what I'm going to need and whatever. So here I just use that same salsa container. I'm just going to add some water. I'm going to add water to cover. So I added some, and then I realized no, that's not enough. So I'm going to add a little bit more here in a minute because like I said, I do want it to be covered. And then what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put the lid on it. So once it starts to simmer, I'm going to go ahead and pop the lid on it. And that's just going to help keep that liquid in there. Here I do go ahead and add a spoonful of beef bouillon paste. Again, I think that just adds a really nice underlying flavor to the chili. And like I said, I'm going to pop that lid on it, and that's going to keep it from evaporating too much of that liquid out because I want to keep most of that liquid in the chili. But this is just a super meaty, bean-filled chili, and we serve this. A lot of times I'll make cornbread, but if I don't have time to do that, I'll just serve this with, so here I was showing it was starting to simmer, so I'm going to pop the lid on, and then I'm going to let it cook, just simmer. I'm going to turn it down to low, cook it on, simmering. I'm going to cook it and simmer it on low, there we go, for about 30 minutes, but anyway, I serve this with crackers and cheese and sour cream, and this is what it looked like. I did dish out my kids a little bit, so it wasn't as full, but it was so good. It's such a comforting meal, and I think that you should give it a try sometime.